Afternoon, everyone. For everyone listening, I'm here with Kevin Hipkins. He's the Chief Experience Officer, I think he likes to be known, at Molly Maid. So hi, Kevin.
Hi, how are you doing, Doug?
Yeah, good, thanks. Good. So no, I read somewhere you don't really appreciate titles so much. So that's one that you would happily use. Chief Experience Officer, is that right?
Yeah, we're a pretty flat organization. Everybody gets stuck in helping franchisees. I personally don't like titles, and I think anybody in an organization has one focus, and that's just helping franchisees.
Okay, great. But underneath all of that, where you have to have a title, Kevin, what's your role at an ownership level with Molly Maids?
So I guess the official title is President and CEO. I'm the owner of the company as well, and so I'm primarily responsible for determining what we're doing on a kind of an annual basis. Are we doing the right things to help franchisees? Are we doing the right things to grow our brand? Are we doing the right things to grow the organization? And it does come back to growth. There's no doubt about it.
Okay, great. And tell us, for those that don't know, who are Molly Maids and what do they offer your customers?
Yeah, we're pretty fortunate. The name Molly Maid really does a fantastic job telling people what we do, which is cleaning houses. So we have a franchise owners who have teams of staff. They go in teams of two. They get into a customer's home, and franchise owner first of all identifies with the customer what they want done, how frequently they want it done, what price they're going to pay to have it done, and then they send a team in to be able to do it on a regular basis and make sure that customer is happy with the service. At the end of the day, it does come back to, is that customer happy in making a trade-off? That they don't have to do the cleaning, they pay us to do it, and we do a great job in making sure that they're happy.
Okay, all right, thanks for that. And the name Molly Maid, the maid bit is obviously kind of obvious. I get that. Tell me about the Molly Maid. What's the origins? How did that name come about?
Yeah, so the company was actually started in Canada by a nurse and her husband. So Adrian Stringer and her husband Chris Stringer, and they were living in upstate New York. They couldn't find anybody to clean their house. They read about the well-heeled in Manhattan who couldn't find house cleaners because back in the 1970s, immigration patterns were changing. And we had more and more women entering the workforce, and immigration was such that it was more, I hate to go through an entire society, but it wasn't European, it was a bit more Asian, and they weren't as comfortable going in to clean the houses. So they had a situation where demand was increasing and supply was falling. And they thought, you know what, we get back to Canada, we're going to look into this. I think this could be a business that works. So got back to Canada, and Chris Stringer had seen a movie called The Unsinkable Molly Brown, and he liked the spirit of the group that were on this submarine, and he thought, Molly, I like that spirit. Molly, when you clean houses, how about Molly Maid? And that seemed to resonate, and ended up getting a graphic designer to design a logo. They came up with the 18th century maid cap, and away we went.
And that was Molly Maid, and it stuck.
And that was Molly Maid, and it stuck. And the name still sticks. I mean, if you ask somebody how they heard of us, they probably can't tell you. They just know. And I think one of the reasons they know is because the name just rolls off your tongue.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's interesting because for me, I've been in franchising 20 years. So Molly Maid, from the very beginning, as soon as I started to understand what franchising was all about, Molly Maid was one of those brands that really featured and it's just always been in my kind of psyche for 20 years. So it's interesting to hear how other people might see it, because I've forgotten how I didn't see it, 20 years ago. So it's it's really interesting.
That's good. I love to hear that.
Yeah. So Kevin, tell me about how it came about. I guess you and Molly Maid. How did that happen?
Yeah, so I was my background is banking and management training, and so back in the early 1990s, I was working with a bank in Canada on the commercial banking side, and then went to the management training side, and ended up connecting with Jim McKenzie, who didn't found Molly Maid. The Stringers found it, but I say Jim gave Molly Maid its cultural and marketing DNA. And so met with Jim, did some seminars for Molly Maid over the course of about a year and a half. And then some things had changed within the leadership structure of the company. And I got to know Jim quite well. And Jim called me up and said, hey, would you be interested in joining the company and helping us to grow? And I love the franchise owners. I still love the franchise owners. Really enjoyed working with Jim. He's a real passionate individual, not only about Molly Maid, but about the concepts of franchising, kind of what it stands for, and joined the company, and went on from there. It's been a great ride.
And what does Molly Maid's look like today in terms of its network size in Canada, in the UK, globally? What's that structure?
So the structure today is it's a brand that is by far and large owned by Molly Maid International in Canada, and then that brand is licensed to individual franchisors to be able to expand it. And I say that it's a bit different in the United States. United States, they own the brand, so it's a little bit different in the United States than what we have. But other than that, the franchisors operate in the United Kingdom, Canada, the United States, Japan, and Portugal.
Okay, and in the UK, how many franchisees are there? How many territories are covered?
Yeah, so we've got I think there's 80 territories that are covered now, with a total of 67 franchisees. Some consolidation coming out of COVID in terms of franchisees, not the areas necessarily, but the franchisees. We're doing system-wide turnover right now of about 23.5 million, give or take.
Yeah.
So that's here in United States and Canada. I don't get involved too much with that anymore. Used to, but not anymore. So I don't have a great handle on what they do.
No, that's good. No, it's interesting to hear about the UK and see where Molly Maids are kind of headed. What's the vision in terms of numbers of territories in the UK, or franchisees in the UK?
So we can double the number of franchisees that we have, and that's one of the reasons why I bought out my partners to be the owner for Molly Maid in the United Kingdom, is because we have a lot of room to expand from a distribution perspective. So that's the first thing. It's expanding our number of franchise owners. And then the second thing is taking that brand and doing more with it. To be able to help franchisees increase brand awareness and drive more value for Molly Maid UK, meaning the shareholders. It's important for us because obviously for franchisees, but our industry has absolutely exploded coming out of COVID here. And so I think the potential that franchisees have to grow their business is a lot greater. And so it's about really ramping up then the efforts that we're putting into helping them to do that.
So tell me about why, I mean, did it ramp up for obvious reasons because everyone was stuck in their homes for so long that they realized, well, we need to keep this place clean more, or how did that come about? What was the reasoning, or how did you see it?
Yeah, I think it comes back to supply demand, and supply demand impacts every single industry. You just don't know how much it impacts it. So pre-COVID, let's say most of the industry, the cleaning industry, was done by cash in hand. So you pay somebody to clean your house, you're paying £10 an hour. It's all primarily done on a cash in hand basis. And sorry, I don't know if you're still there, Doug. But coming out of COVID, what happened was a lot of the house cleaners who had been cleaning homes, they couldn't get in to clean the house, and they didn't get paid. And so they ended up leaving the industry. And then a lot of those cleaners, when they left the industry, they went back to their home country. Maybe they went back to Poland and found out because of Brexit, they couldn't get back in. And so we have a shortage of cleaners right now in the United Kingdom.
Hi, Kevin.
Hey, Doug, how are you?
I'm having a resort to, the power's gone again. So I've got my phone and I've got 4G. 5G.
Oh, no. Did you want to maybe make it for next week then, Doug? Would that be easier?
Yeah, we could do if hold on, let me just put my I'll start my video anyway. So there you go. This is my little this is my little office. I've got two offices. I've got one because my wife and I work together in the business, so I'm actually in her office at the moment. And mine's up there. So yeah. So,
I give you credit working from home. I just could not. I can't do it.
no, well, we've done it. We've done it now for 18 years. So and you know, the other thing is we've been, well, I've done it for 18 years. My wife and I have worked together for 15. So we've been and we've been married for 12 now. So and we work together in the business. And so, you know, and it's amazing because I just think it's like, it's obviously, it works really well for us, but it's probably such a small percentage that would be able to make it work. We're just pretty lucky that we have, really. So
very small.
Yeah, it is very small. And but you just have to set up in the right way, I think. You know, since COVID, during COVID, all this work from home stuff, we were used to it, of course, because we did exactly nothing really changed. I had to become like a management consultant, teaching people how to work from home because I'd always done it, and so Zoom and things for me were just totally normal, and organizing yourself and separating work and business and having kids and separating them and creating home office space. You suddenly, I mean, I never made any money out of it, Kevin, don't get me wrong, but I you know, I probably missed a trick, but I advised so many people over COVID about how to set up in the right way. So yeah, I'd say we're somewhat of an expert at doing that now. So,
well, you're the right place, the right time.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. So no, Kevin, we can, do you know what, we can carry on like this. I mean, I'm okay. It's
okay. Yeah, it does fine by me.
Yeah, it's not a problem. I'm using my arm as a, but you know, that's just real life, right? So sometimes it is what it is. So no, that's fine. So we can carry on. No problem at all. Because I was enjoying the chat, to be honest, Kevin. So so just to bring it back to you and Molly Maids and everything else. I know for me, when I first kind of started to understand what franchising really was, right, in a kind of a business format that we understand it. When did you first understand what franchising really was? It wasn't just McDonald's on a high street, or, you know, there was a lot more to it than that.
So when I did my first seminar for Molly Maid back in Canada, which was financial training. So it was budgeting and it was cash flow forecasting, and had the opportunity to go 3-4 cities across Canada to be able to do that, and met probably 75% of the franchisees on those seminars. Got a chance to spend time with Jim and the leadership team at Molly Maid, who were really passionate about helping franchisees. I mean, I can't make that up. And then that's where you get a chance to see, wow, I mean, this is a real opportunity from a business perspective, because you're working with people and helping them to grow their business. And as they grow their business, you're growing your business as well. So if you focus on them and make sure they're growing, then you just gotta kind of get pulled along with it in their jet stream, if you will.
So that was your first real, and before that, what was your understanding of franchising? Do you remember if someone had said to you, what is franchising? What would have been how would you have answered that?
Oh, you said McDonald's, and that probably would have been it, right? But
Yeah.
back in the late 1980s in Canada, even the early 1990s, there wasn't a lot of franchisors, and there wasn't a lot of not so much franchisors. There wasn't a lot of brands that you'd associate with franchising. McDonald's, yes, franchising, but you probably would have associated that more with restaurant. There was a franchise called Weed Man in Canada. Yes, it was franchise, but you'd associate that with coming to control your weeds and your lawn. And so for me, the franchising concept really wasn't about necessarily the franchising side. It was about the branding side. It's that creating that consumer brand.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, I think that still exists very much today, Kevin, doesn't it? I mean, once you get past the major high street brands, the F&B brands, and that kind of thing, people really don't, a lot of people on the street don't understand that this company offering this service in lawn care or in domestic cleaning or in commercial cleaning or whatever else is a franchise. They just see it as a service they need, and that's about as far as it gets. And it's interesting. I mean, I think that's always one of the it's one of the growth restrictors for franchisors finding franchisees, is that there's just not such a great general knowledge amongst the population about what franchising really is and what it can offer them potentially if they want their own business. So, again, I think there's a lot of people at lots of levels trying to change that all the time.
I mean, I'd love to see the stats on, let's say, the franchising sector in the UK. How many people do we employ? If you take all the franchisees, how much turnover do we do? How many brands do we have? And I think there's a strong business case for franchising in the United Kingdom that I don't think people really understand.
No, I know the likes of the BFA are working, hard at multiple levels, from government all, down to community and so on. But it's just, it takes something quite big, I think, for the general population to start to really truly understand what franchising is. Rishi Sunak started talking about it generally to the public. People would prick up their ears and listen, because they'd be like, oh, what's this thing Rishi's talking about as a way people can start their own business. But that's very rare that happens. It happened at government level in Malaysia, in fact, and that changed the nature of franchising and the understanding of franchising in Malaysia. And it made it like a household conversation about starting a business via a franchise. And so we're nowhere near there yet in the UK, that's for sure. So
no, nice aspirational target, that's for sure.
Yeah, I know, exactly. It would help everyone and everything relating to franchising. So it's a big picture goal, which no one should ever lose sight of, probably. So Kevin, one of the people listening to this, that there will be business owners, small business owners that have a successful business, or what they consider a successful business, and they're looking to grow it, and franchising might just be entering their consciousness as a growth format for them. There'll be other people listening who are franchisors already, at various stages, some at very early stages of the journey, just maybe taking on their first franchisees and figuring out that. And there will be franchisors that are much more mature, maybe looking and thinking about exit strategies at ownership level. And then we also know there'll be people listening who are thinking about maybe investing in a franchise and becoming a franchisee. So the question I wanted to ask you, and it's a bit convoluted the way I'm going about it, but with all your experience franchising, with everything you've been involved with Molly Maid, what kind of advice would you give, firstly, the small business owner who is considering franchising as a way to grow their business?
So if we, I don't think it was that convoluted actually, Doug. But if we divide it up, let's divide it up into franchisor and franchisee. So from a franchisor perspective, it's first of all, prove that the business model works, and prove that the business model works not just once, but prove that it works 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times. You need to understand that yourself. If you're going to accept somebody's money to start a franchise, you better be sure that it works well for them, right? And so you spend the time knowing that it works. And if you're the franchisor, you of course can negotiate. Let's say you're a high street brand, you want to be in every high street. You can negotiate all those leases, and you can hire the people, or you can rely on a motivated franchisee to do that for you. And they will do it for you, but you have to demonstrate that business model works. That's kind of first and foremost. And I think for franchisees, at the end of the day, if you're a franchisee, you're buying a brand, and you're buying access to a brand and a business system. And I think you have to make sure in your own mind that brand and that business system is going to give you the opportunity to build a bigger business than if you were to do it yourself.
Yeah, Agree. Yeah. And to a franchisor who's kind of got over, got over that first hurdle, has a network of, let's say, more than 10 franchisees who are profitable and performing. What would you say to them about future growth? Because you're obviously a well-sized, mature network now. Yes, you've still got a way to go to be fully grown, but you're really well down the line, and that's really hard to do. And so I wanted to hear from you as to what kind of things need to be thought about to go from, say, 10 franchisees to 70, and make sure that it's done in the right way, a sustainable way.
So I see the first thing is you're talking with your franchisees a lot. You're understanding exactly kind of I say their pain points, but what are their pain points? What are the things that are holding them back from growing their business? So if you understand that, then you can develop the strategies or the initiatives that are designed to solve those things. It is about solving the pain points for the franchisee. So let's say you've got 10 franchisees, you've got at least enough revenue to be able to support them. And then it's understanding within your structure, your support office, head office, whatever you're calling it, how is it that you can solve all these pain points that franchisees have through your own infrastructure? And whether that's giving them money back for advertising, whether that's helping support leasehold improvements, it really is going to range on the business model, but I believe it first and foremost starts with understanding the franchisees' pain points.
Yeah, and you I suppose as a new franchisor, you can't really call yourself a franchisor until you've taken on a number of franchisees and supported them successfully and understood their pain points and overcome those and tweak the template and been in a better place for the next franchisee that joins you. And when you've done that a number of times, you can never stop improving, that's for sure. But you can get really close to that ideal model that'll work at that small, medium enterprise level.
Yeah.
For the franchisee. I think that's good advice. Work with your growing franchise network, and never assume that you are the finished article.
No, your business model. I think COVID's taught business people that you've got to change, and sometimes that change has to happen pretty quickly. But I think sometimes in franchising, franchisors are maybe too reluctant. I'm not going to say too afraid, but too reluctant to change the business model. And I understand that, but you've got to embrace change because that's probably what's holding you back from helping you to help franchisees.
Yeah. So Kevin, what the next 5 years at Molly Maid? Let's go back to Molly Maid a little bit, and where are you seeing the next 5 years in terms of not only growth but development of the model potentially, or the brand?
Yeah, so I don't know what happens necessarily with all franchises, but for us, so it gets pretty granular. I like the granularity. I like understanding kind of what's happening at the ground. So I'll be really specific on this, but our market is absolutely exploded because of Brexit and COVID. So that's creating opportunities for franchisees to double and triple their business, and that's what we want to help them do. So we want to help them to add teams, to add customers, to add staff members that is going to allow them to take their business from where it is today and see it double and triple, because the market will allow that. So that's the first thing, and it's same store sales growth. And I think then the second thing is we do need a bit of an economic kind of, I don't know, readjustment in the country, and I think that will allow. I think all franchisors are going to see their business grow, because usually in a down period, more people join franchising because maybe they don't want to join the traditional workforce or the paid workforce, if you will. But I think we will see, if there's a job loss recession, then I think we will see more individuals look at franchising as an alternative to be able to realize their financial goals. And I think we will see more, for us at least, we're going to have more franchise owners join us.
Yeah. Okay. So it's fair to say that for new franchisors, again, this is, for people who've been in franchising a long time, they'll understand as fully what you're saying. But for new franchisors, making sure that your franchisees are successful, are profitable, are growing, are doing what they need as a small business, that guarantees the success of you as a franchisor. So let's focus on them, because the rest will work out itself to a degree.
Absolutely. We talk about giving franchisees more and better tools to be able to compete in their market. So it's developing better tools for them to attract more customers, and it's developing better tools for them to be able to attract more staff members. And it's about developing better tools for them that allows them to grow their business. It's kind of a catch-all, but it's just not. I think some franchisors may think, well, it's just chucking more money into advertising. It's not. That could be part of it, but it's the tools that you're helping to develop to be able to give franchisees a better opportunity to grow their business.
So Kevin, I wanted to ask you about just with your understanding of franchising and managing franchise networks and the franchisee franchisor relationship, where do you see the trickiest or the most difficult parts of that being, or what are the most difficult parts of that in your opinion?
Yeah, I think for the franchisor, it's really understanding the pain points of the franchisees. It's what are they going through? What is preventing them from achieving more success, whatever success looks like for them, whether it's more sales, whether it's more profit, whether it's growth, whether it's expansion. I mean, it could be a number of things, but I think for a franchisor, it's really drilling down to understand what are those pain points. Because if you understand what the pain points are, and you're solving them, then it's a true partnership. And if you don't understand them and you start to do things that don't benefit the franchisee, it doesn't solve a problem for them, it doesn't solve a challenge, but hey, it looks really good for us, that doesn't make sense, and the organization won't be successful.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And I always look at, I mean, a franchisee is just another small business on one hand, a small, an SME, a limited company, whatever, however they set up. But on the other hand, they have the backing and the structure that the franchisors provided them, and that's really what they're relying on. But fundamentally, you've still got to deal with the whole marketing and sales side of a business and a small business. And what I wanted to ask you was, those are, in my experience, that's where most franchisees lack either skill, background, experience, knowledge, etc. is in the sales and marketing side of a business, which is incredibly important if you want to make any money. How do you help franchisees and support franchisees in those two areas, marketing first and then sales?
So marketing, and I like the way that actually you structured it, because it is marketing first, and it could be, and maybe drill down a little bit more and just say advertising, but it's marketing and advertising, and then it's sales. So it's like that top of the funnel activity. And so what we do is we try to generate as many inquiries as the franchise owner needs to be able to grow. And so we work with them to identify, well, how it gets to be a numbers game. How much you want to grow? How many new customers do you need to add? How many inquiries, therefore, do you need? Because that's going to produce estimates to go see a customer. So we take a lot of the advertising, not so much off of our franchisees' hands, but we help them to do it. And mainly that's paid search advertising through Google, Facebook, management of our Instagram accounts, our social media feed, Facebook. And then it's leaflet advertising as well, which also starts to get some of the older demographic. But it's taking a lot of that activity away from franchisees. And I don't say that mean take it away because they can't do it. I just mean take it away because if they have to think about all the advertising they have to do, and then they have to do all of the interviews, and then they've got to talk with staff, and then they've got to keep customers happy, it's just too much for them. And so as a franchisor, we say, listen, let's take that off your hands, because we can do that for you. and we can manage the brand and we can drive inquiries so that you can just concentrate on managing them. So that's the first thing, that top of the funnel activity. The second thing is technology. Now, I say technology and people think, oh, technology and maid service, you've got to be joking me. I mean, it's the most, it's you clean, you use a Hoover, you clean toilets. That's not technological, but it's the management of the business that's a little bit technological. So we've long had sales management software where we can track the number of leads that franchise owners are getting from all of the activities that we're doing, mainly paid search. And then we can track, well, what's their conversion rate? And we can track how many times they're following up with customers so that we can start to understand the correlation between quick response, follow-up, and conversion. And that software has evolved over time. And actually we're developing new software this year that we're using with a UK supplier to be able to help franchisees. So it's that sales management software that helps franchisees to better manage the leads they have. And then it's about conversion, right? If you manage the lead better, you're going to convert that customer at a higher percentage than if you don't manage the lead.
And yes, and that conversion thing is obviously the final piece, and that's something that most franchisors can't do for the franchisee. That is up to the franchisee to hit those conversion rates, because you can serve them with all the inquiries in the world, but if they're not converting any, then that's a problem. How do you support people? How do you talk about what sales means in your business or in their business in this case? And how do you kind of coach them to go about that in the right way? And how do you solve problems with those franchisees that they're not getting the function of sales, or they misunderstand what it is, or you know what I mean? Because it is different with every franchisor, but it's a key problem. I'm just wondering how you help to solve that.
Yeah, honestly, Doug, it's not that much of a problem for us, and maybe it's because when a customer reaches out to us to be able to get maid service, letting somebody in your house is an incredibly personal decision. And so if you've reached a point where you think, listen, I need household help, I'm going to call somebody, you're inviting that person into your house. So automatically the sales, it's not double glazing, if you will. Maybe it's because the customer relationship is really started right from the day that they visit the website. And so our franchisees are really going in to understand what the customer wants done. And we have a very high conversion rate. We convert on average so between going in to see the customer to the conversion to getting the customer, our conversion rate is usually around 65-75%. So that's incredibly high percentage. But the reason we get it, so to your point, what do we do to help franchisees? It's helping them to understand, okay, what's the process you follow when you're in a house? Yeah. What do you want? What information do you want to get? And what's the best practice to be able to provide the customer with the estimate for the price and the estimate for the service, and then what to do after they get that estimate if they don't convert, and then how to follow up with that customer. And so we'll spend a lot of time training them on what our processes are, but they come with a lot of skills anyways. We find our franchisees are very people oriented, so they come with that kind of natural skill. And then, we also do a lot at our regional meetings. So we get franchise owners together at least 9 times a year, right around the country. And so what we'll do is we'll always have a sales part. Well, what's the best practice? What are you doing that's working? What are some of the most common objections you have? How have you handled them? What's your conversion rate? Oh, why do you have a high conversion rate? You have a lower conversion rate. Okay, well, maybe we should put the people with the low conversion rate with the people with the higher conversion rate, so they can talk with each other to understand what they do. Franchisees learn the most from each other. We can say, oh, well, this is the process that works. But when they're talking with another franchisee and that franchisee says, oh, yes, this process works, it means a lot more.
Yeah, that's that was the next, that's what I was really going to get onto next, and you've kind of gone down that path there. It's the management of the relationship that the franchisees have separate to the franchisor in a way. It's kind of creating a forum where franchisees can ask other franchisees and get the answers, and you create this hive mentality where people see not just one support from a franchisor, but tens or hundreds in some cases, depending on how many franchisees there are, and that actually becomes a hugely supportive role. I think a lot of franchisors don't, in my experience, they don't set that up in the right way. How have you gone about creating that environment? Because I think it's critical.
So when you say the environment, maybe just you mean the environment where they want to participate, they want to learn?
I suppose it comes back down to technology. I'm a massive advocate of technology across. It doesn't matter how simple the business is or what kind of business it is. For me, technology is absolutely key to pulling lots of things together, and technology at all kinds of levels. And so I suppose one question is, how do you create effective communication between franchisees that are all over the country, and they're not just going to all pick up the phone and have chats on the phone together. So what have you kind of set up, or how have you got things set up to make it easier for that communication channel?
Yeah, that is a bit of a secret sauce, isn't it? So we it's like chicken and egg. What do you get first? But first of all, on the technology side, we use a program called Workplace by Facebook/Meta. So that's our company intranet, and that has, I mean, I'm not going to say revolutionized because it sounds too grandiose, but it has kind of transformed how we communicate with franchisees and how they communicate with each other. So it's almost like having one specific forum where they can go to that area and ask questions and get information from others, get information from ourselves. So back, a few years ago, we would be sending out memos to franchisees, and maybe we'd have on the website or a part of intranet, we would have a not necessarily a forum, but some video tools. Well, now through Workplace, there's no memo that gets sent out. It's all there, and they can access it anytime they want. If they want to access it Friday night at 8 o'clock with a glass of wine in their hand, they can do it. If they want to do it Sunday morning because they get up and they really want to do some extra work in their business, then they do that. And so I think Workplace for us is really transformed how we communicate with franchisees and how they communicate with each other. Easier to connect.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I mean, yeah, but franchisors use lots of tools. That's quite a common one. But it seems to work very well. The bottom line is, as long as the tool is effective and working, that's the most the most important thing.
The other thing we've always done at our regional meetings or national meetings is we have roundtable discussions, and that's where we set aside. Usually it could be, let's say if we have a 2-day meeting, we could spend 4 hours, 3-4 hours on roundtable discussions spread across 2 days. So. Yeah. Here's a topic that we're going to talk about. Here's kind of a loose presentation on why we're talking about it, and maybe what you want to get out of it. And then we ask questions that they talk amongst themselves. And that type of sharing is what really starts to get the juices going in terms of improvement. It's getting that, it's really making that franchisee feel, wow, this is I really can see the benefit of this, and I want to improve this in my business. It's getting that passion ignited that I think really does light it up. But in those roundtable discussions, we've always believed that's the best way to get franchisee sharing, and that's where they spark a relationship, and then they'll follow up with that individual 2-3 weeks from now, maybe when they're having a challenge where they wouldn't have picked up the phone before, but maybe now they will because they've talked with that person in a bit more of an informal setting.
And how do you teach? So you're talking about franchise conferences here. You might call them something else, but franchise conferences where all franchisees get together physically over a day or 2 days and a night and whatever else. You're a very mature brand. You've been around a long time. You have a big network, so it looks the way it does now. So 2 questions. One, how do you structure that? What are some of the things that you do to ensure that the most amount of your franchisees attend or are there? So that's the first thing. Secondly, how do you create a structure around that so that it is relevant and there's value in it for attending? Start with those two for now?
Yeah. So the first thing is franchisees will prepay, and we call it a meeting fee, and they'll prepay it every single week with their royalties, and that covers their registration at all the meetings that we have throughout the year. And so what we're trying to do there is we try to get it to a point where the franchisee doesn't say, oh, geez, it's going to cost this to attend, and therefore I don't know if I want to spend that. Whereas if they just pay it every single week, and it's a small amount, then it covers their attendance. So they don't even have to think about it. We just tell them, listen, you're automatically registered by having this prepaid fee. So that's the first thing.
Sorry, Kevin, is that part of the management service fee? Is it just it's part of their percentage that they pay? It just kind of covers, this is one of the other support on the side of things that is covered by it.
And it's a small amount. We keep the registration fees for events very low. I mean, we don't even cover our costs, and so that's the other thing is if we cover off the cost of our meetings, we split it between our fixed and managed expenses and our what we call our brand development fund, that cooperative advertising fund. And so that pays for about 80% of the cost of regional meetings or conferences. And then franchisees usually will contribute 20% through this meeting fee that they pay. So we subsidize the cost for them, is the first and foremost. And we make it easy for them to attend from a financial perspective. And then in terms of adding, delivering value, you got to take the time. You got to take the time to plan these things out. It takes 3 to 4 months to really plan out an agenda. And sometimes that agenda will involve some research. Well, you can't do research 2 weeks before the event. If you may have to do research 2 months before the event. So you do need 3-4 months to really plan it out. And then finally, we go through presentations. It's painful for our team. I feel for them, but we will take kind of 2 days and go through every single PowerPoint slide and discussion that we're having. And we all chime in and say, I don't know if I like that question. What are you getting at here? I don't know if that's the one we want to be asking. I don't know if that's the information we want to share. I don't know if that's the discussion we want to have. So we just tear it apart. And that preparation, I hope at least, really makes the event fantastic for franchisees.
Yeah. It's really, really interesting. I've never really thought about it until right this moment, that a good franchisor with a developed network has to become a good event planner, because this is the event. I've never ever thought of it that way, but that's what you're describing there. That's 3-4 months planning. You can't just outsource it all. You can't. In fact, there's of course there's elements you can outsource, maybe booking a venue and maybe getting someone to help do that. But most of it you have to do internally. It's your internal people and support structure that's really putting this on and delivering the value. So yeah, I mean, it's event planning, isn't it?
It is event planning, and you're right. You do need it's like cooking. You need time to let that settle, and so we'll have a draft agenda 3-4 months before, and even if it's a 1-day meeting, I don't care. We need a draft agenda. Let's see it. And then from that draft agenda, we share it with some franchisees as well, saying, okay, here's what we're thinking. How's it look? And so that interaction with the franchisees, a small group ahead of time, shows us, yeah, that's the right path, or no, that's the wrong path. But I'd say the first and foremost is we want to deliver value for those meetings for franchisees. This is just not kind of chucking a bunch of information on a PowerPoint slide with sales graphs and conversion rates. You can do that through Zoom. No, it's a desire to make sure that franchisees get a lot of value from these. And if they're not getting value from it, well, they're just not they won't attend. But better still, I would just feel mortified if we didn't produce a session that really ticked the boxes for franchisees every single session. Like that's, and I can't emphasize that enough.
And so the structure of that, it's an overnight typically, right? Is it 2 days and an overnight? Is that?
Yeah. So that's one thing we changed coming out of COVID. So, I mean, we are an established brand. I've been doing this for 30 years, a lot of meetings. We changed what we were doing coming out of COVID. So before COVID, we would have a national event every 2 years, and it would be it'd be 3 days. So they'd get there on a Thursday night, and it would be Friday, Saturday, and then they'd go home Sunday,
Right.
every 2 years. And then we'd supplement that with a meeting in the spring and a meeting in the autumn. But coming out of COVID, we knew, there was a real desire to get people together because they need to talk about what they went through. And we wanted to get them together like the first weekend in January. And somebody said, well, we can't do that. There's still some lockdown. And we said, well, we're going to do it because we got to plan this out. Franchisees need that the first part of January. So we now, instead of having a conference every 2 years, we have a get together for just one night in first part of January. And actually it's the second weekend in January in 2024. And that allows it. And it's not businessy, teeny weeny bit of business. And then it's just about celebration of the past year. And then we'll have another meeting in the spring, and then we'll have another meeting in the autumn, and that's a bit more formal, if you will. And then we supplement that, and we do that right around the country, in the south, in the north, and then up in Scotland as well. And then we supplement that. We have what we call kind of a high growth meeting, and so we'll identify a number of franchisees. Could be 5, could be 10, could be 15 who are achieving some really high growth, and then we bring them together for a one-day meeting to talk about how they're achieving that growth and how they're managing it and how they think about it. And so then that way we can take those best practices. Well, first of all, it helps them. But second thing is then we can take that and use it to be able to help other franchisees get the growth that these individuals are getting.
And are you still getting everyone together and for a couple of nights? Is that still happening once every 2 years, or how?
No.
You're not. You kind of doing regional get-togethers.
So we'll have a meeting in January. And I love that time frame because it kicks the year off.
And that's everyone. That's everybody.
That's everyone. Yeah. Everybody's invited. Everybody's invited to that. And so that's the second week in January this year. And then we'll have the meeting in the springtime, which is about May timeframe, and then we'll have another meeting in
and that's everyone. And so basically the whole network is meeting 3 times a year. They're invited.
And they can get so we try to make it easy for franchisees. So we'll have a meeting in the north Midlands to be able to help the people that maybe don't want to travel down to the south. We'll have one in the south, and then we'll have one up in Scotland as well, because the Scottish franchisees, it's a big ask to get them to travel down to, let's say, London. And so we want to be able to help them anyways. But those meetings, they're open to everybody. Franchisee wants to, they can go absolutely any meeting they want, but altogether we'll hold 3, 6, 7, 8 meetings next year that all franchisees can attend.
Wow. I've never heard that before. That's impressive, I'll be honest. And the attendance, what would you say is the attendance, the percentage, if you were average out? Because you're right, people may choose not to attend, some because they're up north and this is down south and so on. And if there's also that many happening in a year, people might say, well, I'll go to 3 of them and I'll spread it out. How does that look? How does that work out?
Percentage wise, let's say the Scottish meetings, the attendance is pretty much 100%. Okay. So for our Scottish franchisees, the 100% of them will attend. Probably throughout the other meetings, the attendance usually is around 70%. Sometimes it's 65, sometimes it's 75, but it's about 70%. But what we'll do with those 30% who are unable to attend for whatever reason is we'll have almost a mini agenda that our chief operating officer and their business advisor will do with them through Zoom or Teams, so that way everybody sees the content, which I think is really important. So it's not, even for people who can't attend, they're not going to get the same experience, but we need them to get the same information that we're giving. And so that way we aim to get that information out to 100% of the franchisees.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Well, that's no, it sounds like a great structure, Kevin. And it's probably only something that franchisors that are a bit more mature and have a larger network can probably do, right? Or would you suggest that however small a brand is, if they should look at that kind of a structure from early on? How how would you advise a new franchisor who's maybe got 5, 6 franchisees, 7 franchisees at this point?
Well,
Um,
I think having 5, 6 franchisees, personally, what I would do is I would probably get those 5 to 6 franchisees together every 2, 3 months,
right.
and just have a chat.
Yeah.
How's it going?
Yeah.
Because if you have 5 to 6 franchisees and you're starting, your systems are being developed by those 5 to 6 franchisees, and so you need to understand how it's working. You can't be that's not right, but you can't be so egotistical to think that you've sorted it all out. If you think that, then it's like that saying by Ray Kroc: if you're green, you're growing; if you're ripe, you're rot. And so you get those 5 to 6 franchisees together just to chat about how they're doing, what's working, what's not working, what systems do we need to look at. And so that's the way you're going to develop your systems. I would say almost for a smaller franchise network, it's easier to get them together than it is for a larger franchise network.
Yeah. Yeah. No, again, I think it's really sound advice, because I think a lot of franchisors are early on are trying to pretend to know everything. They're trying to pretend to have all the solutions. They're almost putting a front on to those 5 or 6 or 7 franchisees that, hey, you've invested. We can't go and ask you for feedback, because that makes us look like we don't have it together. And the truth is, actually, as long as you manage the expectations of those first 5 or 6 or 7 or even 10, and the expectation from them is, we want feedback. You're actually part of the growth of this brand. We've got to this point, but we're going to go to the next level, and you're involved in that. Actually empower them so that they feel more part of it.
Totally.
And you know, they might then become your, well, in the beginning, they are your franchise council. If you want to look at it as having a franchise council, or sorry, a franchisee council, that's what they are. So, and then it develops from there. I wanted to ask, actually, on that franchisee council, having a franchisee council, so a number of franchisees that are successful, trusted, and you want their feedback, because you've got so many franchisees, you can't obviously get feedback from 70 or 100 or however many there are. How do you call it, firstly, a franchisee council? You say that you involve them with agendas and things. How do you build that, and how do you manage that, and how does that change over time in terms of the people and the personnel?
So that's a really good question. And what I'm going to say just works for us. And so somebody could be doing it a little bit differently, and it probably works for them too. But I can only share what works for us. So we used to have what we would call a franchise advisory council, an FAC, and we would get them together annually. And we would have a formal agenda and a number of things that we would want to do in the business, maybe improvements, system changes, some talk about how they're doing. But the challenge we found with the FAC is that the topics were so varied. You know, we would want to talk about some operational issues. We want to talk about some technological issues. We want to talk about server challenges, whatever it is, or marketing, or whatever it might be. And it's just too much of an ask to ask them to comment on every single thing. And so we changed, and again, we changed coming out of COVID, is we have now kind of independent teams. So our marketing brand manager has a marketing team, and that is 3 to 4 franchisees that she relies on to give kind of on the ground advice and feedback on what's happening on marketing. And if we're doing something on marketing, then she's going to share it with them to make sure that it's right. Because as a franchisor, you can of course do anything you want. You can put out, you can change anything, but if franchisees don't buy into it, then it doesn't matter. It could be the best idea in the world, but if they don't implement it, it's not going to work. So get back to us. We have a marketing team, and then we'll have a high growth team, and then we'll have a technology team, and then we'll have an operations team that'll take a look at training for our staff, vacuum hoovers that we're using, cleaning supplies, that really kind of granular stuff. But those individual teams and the people that lead them, that they're charged with the responsibility of coming up with ideas that will work, and understanding from franchisees how they're going to work on the ground.
Yeah, so that all makes total sense. How do you as a franchisor select who who is in those teams, who make up part of that franchise advisory council?
Yeah, there's no formal way to do it. There isn't. It's so let's take a look at the marketing team. It's three to four franchisees who really have some good skill sets when it comes to marketing. They've got good intuition. They're aggressive in their marketing. They want to do more, and so they have a mindset that works really well with what we want to do too. And so on the technology side, as well as people that really do embrace technology, they will have, they want to be the first people to try out some new software or to try out a new improvement. We're looking at developing this year or rolling out a Maid app so that our cleaners, our maids, can check into a clean and check out of a clean right there on their mobile phone. Well, not everybody will be able to test that improvement. It's got to be people who are going to really encourage their teams to be able to do that. So it gets back to, so how do we select it? It's intuition, right? It's who are the best people. I've seen franchisee councils that are voted on, and personally, I think that becomes a popularity contest, and it sets up a us versus them. Whereas I like the individual teams because it's a togetherness.
Yeah, I like that. I really like that, Kevin. And so it's almost an invite from the franchisor to those franchisees that have proven themselves, that show those skill levels, and that you feel can contribute. And it's up to them to choose to join that team or not, I guess.
Yeah, and then it will change people annually, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes maybe they've said, listen, we've had like 8 calls this year. I just don't have time to do it anymore, which is fine. Okay, then you know what? Let's identify somebody else. I think it's like, rolling people through those groups, make sure that you're getting feedback from everybody. I think sometimes, we've been guilty. Maybe we've had an advisory council that we haven't had enough turnover in it, and so you need feedback from others in the organization. You need a collective voice, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. So, well, Kevin, I think that's all I had actually for this. It's really interesting. I just diving into that whole relationship between franchisee and franchisor, to me is really, really interesting. I think it's absolutely key to the success of franchisors and franchisees, and just having that symbiotic relationship. And I see it done badly so many times, as a consultancy business, where you can advise and you can try and lead people down a road, but sometimes it doesn't go that way. So it's been brilliant to get that insight from how you handle things and what's worked for you, and I'm pretty sure that people listening will take a lot out of that. So really appreciate that.
Oh, thank you very much.
No, so Kevin, yeah, look, thanks so much for your time, and I wish all the best in the new year, and we'll catch up then.
Yeah, thank you very much.